Welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Purple Mafia is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps, and I thank each and every one of you once and always for downloading and listening to the show. It is a great pleasure to be back on board with you once again today. The Minnesota Vikings have announced their new general manager as of, Saturday afternoon. I'm recording this Saturday night. Was still kind of busy doing my Saturday thing without, obviously, nothing too crazy. Just enjoying some free time, basically, for once in a blue moon, right? But, yes, the Minnesota Vikings do have a new general manager, and that will be now former assistant general manager for the Seattle Seahawks. That's right, Nolan Teasley, the one we all kind of wanted, will be the new Minnesota Vikings general manager. That's right, Nolan Teasley will be coming in, and yes, Rob Brzezinski will be sticking around. He will remain in his former position, or his current position of basically vice president of football operations, vice president of player, and all of that. So kind of similar, basically, to what Rick Spielman was before he became officially the general manager. So the vice president of football operations will remain Rob Brzezinski. He will remain in his role, and it's going to be a three-headed monster. Judd Zulgad earlier today in their update on Purple Daily was a bit afraid of that part of the whole three-headed monster that the Vikings had at the beginning of the Wolves' ownership of the Minnesota Vikings, when you had Fran Foley brought in to be the general manager with Brad Childress and Rick Spielman. So Spielman was kind of in that vice president of football operations, and basically he ended up kind of taking over without being called the general manager. Fran Foley lied in his application, apparently was not a very nice guy either. A lot of people didn't like him. He didn't seem like the nicest person in the world, and he lasted about 5 seconds and was not the basically, when you lie in your application, that's kind of all you need to know about that. Wish people would do that more often in the workplace in this day and age, because it seems like people get away with that crap way too much. But back all those 20 years ago, that didn't happen. Way back in 2006. Crazy that's 2006, 20 years ago. Spielman then became the general manager of the Minnesota Vikings after a terrible 2011 season. Did a fairly good job, but then there was the frustration of building the offensive line and finding a quarterback for this team, even though it could have been Teddy Bridgewater if not for that catastrophic injury. I don't anticipate this episode being all super long because, it's not like we have 9 million things to talk about with Nolan Teasley, but obviously an organization that's had tons and tons and tons and tons of success, oodles and gobs of success. The oodles and gobs, I got that from my third grade teacher years ago. When you hear we have oodles and gobs to do today, it would always be like, great. Nobody wants to hear that from their teacher. No, that means lots of schoolwork. Yay. Anyhow, Nolan Teasley, member of the Seattle Seahawks since at least the past 13 seasons. He's been from Washington pretty much his whole life, so this is him kind of coming out of Washington finally. Kind of like the Timberwolves' Ayu Dosunmu, who pretty much spent his whole life in like the Chicago area. The Timberwolves player Ayu Dosunmu that we traded for, and a lot of people were very happy to have, and had that big playoff performance against the Denver Nuggets. What was it, a 42-point effort when Anthony Edwards got hurt? So kind of similar in that sense. I know it's kind of a weird relation there because he went to Chicago. He was born and raised in Chicago, played for Illinois basically, and then played for the Bulls of all teams, and then eventually was traded to Minnesota. So here we go. This Nolan Teasley, born in Washington, around the Seattle area, and then worked with Seattle for quite a while. What's good about Nolan Teasley compared to, like, say, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, he seems more like an NFL grinder, a football guy, football guy, as they like to say in the podcasting and radio world, and all of that. So that's kind of what you're getting here, more of a grinder, and that could be a good thing, no doubt about it. Where Mr. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, hard to say what was going on there. Obviously, again, noticeably missing during, the second week of training camp in 2023, and a lot of people were like, what the hell, you're not even around? It's like, I don't know. It's just kind of a different vibe when you're the general manager of a team. And apparently, in the workplace today, people get away with that stuff no matter what. But in the general manager world, not so much. But it took 2 years for them to finally say what the heck happened. Nolan Teasley officially became the assistant general manager in 2023, so you tie that together, interestingly enough. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah was fired way back in January 30th, which also kind of felt late at the time, considering the Vikings season had ended at the beginning of the month. So it took about a month for the Vikings to finally make their decision officially to move on, which was a little strange. Rob Brzezinski then took over as the interim general manager. And obviously he's been looked down as the capologist forever, the cap genius. And, well, he's going to stay in that role. Apparently he's not upset to a point like he's going to leave, but I'm sure he's not overly pleased that he's not named the general manager. It's like, wow, this is an opportunity. So we'll see how all this ends up turning out. No promotion from Rob Brzezinski, at least at the moment that we know of. He was, again, called the Vice President of Football Operations, and he will remain in that role versus President of Football Operations. But again, it'll be a three-headed monster. This time, hopefully, an actual three-headed monster, not people lying on their application. It would be hard for Teasley to really lie on his application at this point. It's all kind of there. Fran Foley came for what was known as the San Diego Chargers back then, because they've been in L.A. for a little while now. In fact, kind of a while, which is kind of weird. But whatever, we'll get off of that. I miss the San Diego Superchargers. It just sounds better. Adolfo-Mensah, obviously he had all kinds of weaknesses and such. He had strengths and weaknesses. A lot of people would tell you, yes, he belongs in an NFL front office, but not as the main guy. I don't know, just didn't have the personality for it, or really a whole lot of else. Didn't have the work ethic for it as well to be the general manager of a team. This guy looks like a home run hire, according to a lot of people. And yeah, I mean, it's great to have him on board at the end of the day. It was kind of who we were hoping for, and then again that Rob Brzezinski would stick around one way or another. And yes, that's looking like that's what will happen. He will return to his previous role as Executive Vice President of Football Operations. So Executive Vice President, however you want to say. Executive President, you could just say President of Football Operations. So who is the President of Football when you say Vice President? You always wonder that. Like when Kevin McHale was the Vice President of Basketball Operations for the Timberwolves, the President of Basketball was the owner, Glenn Taylor. Ugh. So eventually they just went with the whole President of Basketball Operations. But unfortunately that guy's name was David Kahn at the time. Currently now we have a guy by the name of Tim Connolly for the Timberwolves. But I keep going off into other teams. Teasley, again, yeah, kind of quotes and conversations here. Not quotes, but just bits and pieces from Kevin Seifert. The story was originally reported by Tom Pelissero, so great job there, Tom. Not that he knows me or anything. He's like, who the heck is this Purple Mafia guy saying Tom, mentioning my name? No, I know. If anything, it's positive. Excuse me. Teasley was the only candidate among the 5 finalists without a clear connection to the Vikings or a key member of the organization. Brzezinski, of course, was with the Vikings already. The Buffalo Bills, Terrence Gray, Denver Broncos assistant manager Reed Burkhardt, each spent more than a decade with the Vikings as a scout. LA Rams assistant John McKay had worked with Kevin O'Connell. So those are the other guys right there. And then that leaves the kids of Brzezinski, who was with the Vikings for quite a while. I think he originally came from... Did he originally come from the Dolphins? I know Spielman did. So there was that. Spielman originally came from the Dolphins. It's just, yeah. Sorry, I'm seeing something I can't believe. Sorry. Sorry. People distracting me, and it's not cool. No, it's really not. But Reed Burkhardt, yeah, you always wonder who maybe came in quote-unquote second place, but I'm guessing it was Rob Brzezinski. Who knows? McKay would have been an interesting one with O'Connell. Who knows how that would have worked out? But then again, I mean, that could have been really interesting. So people talking about, now the pressure's on Kevin O'Connell, but talk is that no, it's really not. It's a three-headed monster, and that Kevin O'Connell will probably have more say with the 53-man roster than he did before. So interesting where that comes from. Yeah, I mean it's going to be fascinating, but of course, again, that's the Vikings. The Vikings always are fascinating one way or another, whether it be a positive or a negative thing. They're gonna always be in the news, and that's where Purple Mafia can be recorded more often, even if it's shorter episodes. But yeah, I wish I had somebody to go back and forth with on this. It would have been kind of fun, but then again, at this hour, not so much. Obviously, I'm recording a lot later than I would have liked to have recorded. That's the frustrating part. I do believe I'm hearing from. This is going to be a one-segment shot, by the way, because this is kind of a quick, news conversation. And again, this would be, yep, Ali Siddiqui was saying, Viking fans, what are your thoughts on the new GM hire? Yep, so I'm guessing, let's see what some of the thoughts are in there. Some people are saying great hire, just kind of the general vibe. Looks like a lot of people very happy. Love it, shake up the scouting department while they're at it. Just kind of people saying very pleased, they're happy, so on and so forth. Not sure yet. I'd like to hear his thoughts on 9. Okay, that's going to be, that's going to be really interesting. So, because, like, you bring in a guy after you make decisions on, like, Kyler Murray and such. But the good part is, if Nolan Teasley's not a big Kyler Murray guy, he signed for 1 year, 1.3. So, Lottie freaking da. Kyler Murray's going to get his money, just not from us this year. So it's still coming from the Cardinals, which again is one of the more unique and fun and interesting conversations. Ali Siddiqui is doing the fingers crossed thing. He's interacted with Purple Mafia before. Hopefully he's still following. Yeah, yes, okay, good. Yep, very well-known individual who does some writing and such, blogging and such. Does a pretty good job. No doubt about that. Like Ali Siddiqui, he's a good dude. Dave Hickey out of Iowa was saying, I think the Nolan Teasley pick for GM is a great hire. He helped build some great drafts in Seattle with some great players on the Super Bowl team. Yep, and yes, they went to the Super Bowl 3 times. Obviously back in 2013. Not a big fan of that team, but it was a good team. I just didn't like the attitude of that team. But that's okay. You know, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's Richard Sherman, I couldn't stand him, but he was a hell of a player. Russell Wilson got on my nerves, hell of a player, and they won Super Bowls. Michael Bennett was a defensive lineman, not the former Vikings running back, way back. Sounds like he was kind of an ass, too, behind the scenes. Like, not real good guy. That's what they're saying back in the day. It's like he was kind of an ass. He kind of looked arrogant to me. I don't know. He had one good frickin' year, and then he was just hurt all the time anyway. So he was probably kind of a moody guy. Usually somebody that's hurt all the time, that's another thing that comes with it. It's like a package deal, someone that's hurt all the time, is they're probably got an attitude behind the scenes as well. They're always pissed off, because they're always hurt. Imagine that. We talked about the schedule already on the last episode. Don't need to dig into that right now. We'll probably dig into that more in the season preview. So, like a few months from now, obviously. Yep, and the John McKay connection was when O'Connell was the Rams offensive coordinator. Yes, they won the Super Bowl in 2022. Wasn't a big fan, or 21, pardon me, wasn't a big fan of the Rams, though they did a great job. Again, that's another situation. It's like, just because I'm not a fan doesn't mean they're not good. Like, I hated the Rams when they won the Super Bowl. I wanted the Bengals all the way, but the Rams won. So again, it's not like, bleep Kevin O'Connell. Just like, I don't like Seattle, I don't like Seattle. I mean, this team was way less dislikable, or this team was more likable than 2013. I think just about any football team outside of the Kansas City Chiefs was more likable than the bleeping 2013 Seattle Seahawks. I mean, we're talking arrogant, we're talking attitude, we're talking no respect for anybody. Bleep you, bleep you, Richard Sherman. After he batted the ball away from Crabtree, that was dumb. His reaction was dumb. But that's old and bitter conversation. I apologize if I'm digging into that well again. But, it was annoying, generally speaking. But, talented team, we'll give them credit for that at the end of the day. You don't have to like the team. You can recognize they're good. Like, if I just hate that Walker from that Seahawks team went to the Chiefs. Of all teams, he had to go to the Chiefs. This is the recent Super Bowl champion and the MVP of the Super Bowl, the running back who absolutely deserved it, winds up with the Chiefs of all teams. So that totally figures. Ugh, so annoying. But I don't know. The Chiefs and the Dodgers are probably my two least favorite sports franchises at the moment. I got to stop bitching about things like that, though. Again, I mean, obviously, he did a heck of a job. He was one of the vital pieces behind the scenes that helped build that franchise in the last few years. He's got many years to go in his life. Pretty young individual, so that's always exciting as well. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah was I believe, a little bit younger than I am, so that's good too. I'm not that old yet. If you're under 50, you've probably got a nice career ahead of you in the football world when it comes to coach or general manager, so that's always a good thing as well. Nolan Teasley is 42 at this point, so 42 years of age, and again, been part of the Seattle Seahawks organization for many years, coming in 13 years ago. Really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with this one. Could be a wonderful hire. A lot of people see this as, he was the most exciting up-and-comer in the group. And again, to have an outsider come in is a good thing. Of course, the Vikings did have an outsider come in last time, coming in from the 49ers and Cleveland Browns by the name of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. But again, he was a completely outside-the-box hire, where this one is, closer to what you're probably looking for a general manager. Somebody who was already the assistant GM. And, I remember thinking, like, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, it was really strange. It's fine if the name is unique and everything, and he was of Ghanaian heritage, and God bless that. I have a really nice friend named William Akaboba from Ghana, so great guy. Nothing wrong with where anybody's from, obviously, or their parents or grandparents or whatever. It was just a strange hire at the time. I wished him the best. I was hoping it would work out. It's kind of a shame that it didn't. So, like, when you heard it, and you saw like the time like he got fired, it's like, oh, you feel bad for him. Yet at the same time, the damage was kind of done. So it was kind of like it was either now or maybe in a year or two if things didn't miraculously improve. Like the damage was already kind of done. Like the first draft was horrendous. The next draft, had at least one good pick, and that was Jordan Addison. I endorsed it before the pick was made, so that was who I wanted, so on and so forth. But it's kind of like after like a pick or two, it seemed like there was miss after miss after miss after miss, and you're hoping that in this case, Teasley will do really well. We'll see how Rob Brzezinski did as well. So it's going to be fascinating. The Vikings definitely took a risk of the defensive lineman, and but the big citrus draft pick, a lot of people extremely excited about that one. So we'll have to wait and see how that all turns out. Could end up being a really good draft, might end up being historic. You never know. Sometimes the drafts that people are like, there's nobody there. Like in the NBA world, as we slide into another sport again, a lot of people thought coming into the 96 draft in the NBA, if you're an NBA fan, the 96 draft, yeah, there's just not a whole lot to get too excited about. I mean, there's talented players, but there's no Shaq. There's no LeBron James, who didn't exist back then. But just saying, there was no huge name that's like, oh my God, this guy's going to change the league. There's no Wemby. Congratulations to him. They're going to the NBA Finals. I hope they lose to the Knicks, by the way, because I don't like the Spurs or the Thunder. No, I don't. Yeah, and then it ended up being a historic draft. I mean, player after 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 player. And who knows, maybe that'll be the kind of draft when it comes to this Rob Brzezinski draft in 26. That's the weird part. So it's like he comes in as the GM, and it's not even his draft yet. So we'll see what happens with this draft going into 27, I suppose, him being Nolan Teasley. So I guess we're going to stop teasing ourselves, and we'll probably have more to talk about with Nolan Teasley, especially after the press conference. We'll have more to say at the time. This is just kind of like, this is a formal introduction to Nolan Teasley as the Minnesota Vikings GM, and then we'll hear, his formal introduction on the next episode. We'll talk about the press conference and what was said, and what to possibly look forward to with Nolan Teasley coming up in the next episode of Purple Mafia. Please do put a 5-star rating if you could on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or something like that. Please give it a follow as well if you haven't followed it on Spotify or Apple, so you can be subscribed to it. Obviously, it doesn't cost anything. Subscribe to the YouTube page. There's all the information in the show description, the YouTube page. If you could, that's free, of course, as well. Following on Instagram and Twitter, please do. Please do. Interact with me anytime. I'm here. I'm here. I'm not a jerk. I'm not too good for you unless you come in with a super attitude and make fun of, basically just go off on me and call me names. Then maybe I'm not going to be a big fan of you at the end of the day. Otherwise, just conversation. I'm not too good for anybody. I'm a normal guy like the rest of you. So maybe you're less normal than I am. Like you're better than me. At the end of the day, it's totally very possible, I would have to say. Not just kind of possible, but very possible that you're better than I am. So at the end of the day, with that said, thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you not too long from now, maybe a week or so, to get the reaction to the Nolan Teasley introduction to the Minnesota Vikings. Until then, take care and God bless.